Have you ever looked at your backyard and thought, why aren't there more butterflies, or bees, or hummingbirds? I used to feel the same way. I had plants. I was watering them, but my garden felt quiet, like something was missing. And here's what I eventually figured out: it wasn't about having more vegetables, more plants. It was about having the right plants and planting them in combination. Today, that's what we're talking about. I'm going to walk you through what to plant to attract bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Also, all other pollinators right here in Houston in one simple beginner friendly system. Hi, I'm Vandhana, and this is Grow with Vibrant Rainbow Gardens podcast, your Houston specific guide to growing a garden that actually works in our climate. Let's get into it. Before we talk about what to plant, let's talk about why does this matter. I know for a lot of beginner gardeners, pollinators feel like a bonus. Nice to have, but not the main thing. But I want to flip that for you. Pollinators and flowers are the main thing. If you're growing vegetables, I'm talking tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumbers, eggplants, melons. You need pollinators. Without them, those plants just sit there and flower. You might get a few fruits, but nothing like what's possible when your garden is actually buzzing with activity. In Houston, we actually have a real advantage. Our long growing season means pollinators are active almost year round. We can keep something blooming from February all through December, even January. That is a whole huge deal. But here's the thing: if your garden only has one type of flower, you're going to attract only one type of pollinator. That limits everything. The goal is to build a garden that works for bees and butterflies and hummingbirds and including wasps, because each one brings a different something to your space. Pollinators don't just make your garden prettier, they make it much more productive. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. We are going to talk about what to plant for each of these pollinators. Instead of guessing what to plant, I want you to think about this in three simple categories. We are going to be talking about bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Each one is looking for something different in your garden. And when you know what they need, you can plant intentionally instead of just throwing things around and hoping. Okay, let's start with bees. Because if you're growing organic vegetables, bees are your best friends. Absolute best friends. Here's the thing most people do not realize: bees are your main vegetable pollinators. Without them, your squash blooms will not fertilize, your eggplants will just sit there, your peppers will not bear fruits, sometimes even your tomatoes will not bear fruits. Bees are the reason your vegetables actually produce food. So if you're growing anything food, bees comes first. Okay, let's talk about a few plants and why it works in Houston. Okay, we are talking about herbs like basil. It's a flowering basil, if you let the herb actually go to flower, it is a solid bee magnet. Most gardeners pinch it and don't do it. Yes, if you need more leaves, you need to pinch off the flowers. At least leave one plant to flower and let it go to seed. Watch what happens and let me know. Trust me. Okay, native salvia. There are so many incredible native varieties of salvia. They are incredibly heat tolerant and bees go crazy over them. Plant them in full sun and they will bloom for months at ends. This is a must for your garden. Thyme and oregano. These are also herbs, and if you let them flower, they become a serious pollinator powerhouse. They have dual purposes. Just like basil, they have use in your kitchen and your garden and act as attracting your pollinators and your predatory insects. Let's talk about one of my favorite plants, borage. Bees go absolutely crazy for borage. It self seeds, so plant it once and it'll keep coming back. Again, I want to tell you one more time. If you're growing vegetables, bees are your best friends. Invite them in. Now, let's move on to butterflies. This is where I want to share one of the most important distinctions in this whole episode. There are two types of plants that butterflies need: nectar plants and host plants. Nectar plants feed the adult butterflies with their nectar, and host plants are where they lay eggs and grow caterpillars. Most people think about nectar plants like pretty flowers and wonder why butterflies visit but they never stay. It's because there is no place for them to raise their babies. If you want a true butterfly garden, you need both. Okay, let's talk about the plants. Zinnias are one of my favorite butterfly plant. It is easy, it is heat loving, and butterflies are obsessed with them. Best beginner butterfly plant, period. And if you want to invite monarchs to have babies in your garden, plant milkweed. That is a must. There are so many varieties of milkweed. We have native milkweeds, we have tropical milkweeds. Depending upon where you are, you can do one or both of them. Monarch, we are in the proper migration pattern, migration route for monarchs, and it will be wonderful to support their preservation. Okay, another one I want to talk about is cosmos. It's such a fun, airy, free, wild looking, frilly plant. It's loved by butterflies. You can just direct sow them in the ground in spring and they take off. They love our heat as well. Another one, marigolds. They, especially French marigolds, repel pests and attract butterflies and bees. They are double win for vegetable gardeners. I want to talk about dill and fennel. They are actually host plants for swallowtail caterpillars. If you want butterflies to have baby caterpillars, these are a must plant in winter and let them go to seed in spring. And one more thing, if you want to have a butterfly garden, you have to be okay with a few chewed leaves, because those baby caterpillars are voracious eaters. They will literally eat through a plant in a couple of days. But they do make some wonderful butterflies. It's so much fun to show your babies how butterflies grows their babies. Okay, moving on to my personal favorite, hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are very picky. They are not going to come to just about any flower. They are specifically looking for tubular, nectar-rich flowers in bright colors, especially warm tones, sometimes even purples. They are attracted to reds, pinks, and purples. They literally see color differently than we do. Most insects and animals do. And they are drawn to warm, bright tones. So here's what I love about them. Once they find your garden, they keep coming back. Hummingbirds are creatures of habits, and they're stunning to look at. Plant the right things and you'll see the same birds returning season after season. Okay, let's move into the plants that attract hummingbirds. Pentas, such a super reliable Houston plant. It thrives in Houston heat and humidity. It practically blooms all season, and hummingbirds visit constantly. Another plant is Salvia greggi. It's also called autumn sage. It's a Texas native. It's super tough and one of the best hummingbird plant you can grow here. Firebush and trumpet vine are some of the plants that love supporting hummingbirds. They're amazing for summer heat, and hummingbirds love those orange tubular flowers. Trumpet white especially is a super showstopper, and they will need to be trained on a fence or trellis. Pentas is probably one of the most underrated plants in Houston. It practically blooms all summer, and it's also a lot of landscapers use it for HOA gardens too. So, okay, let's talk about how to plant them. Yes, we learned a few plants to attract pollinators, but how do I even put them together? One thing I want to tell you is you don't plant these separately. For the magic to happen, you weave them together in one bed, in raised bed, or even in clusters of containers. You don't want to plant a Texas native in your vegetable garden, but plant them right beside it. So they will have a chance to work magic in your vegetable garden. Couple of bee attracting plants, 2 or 3 plants to attract butterflies, and 1 plant to attract a hummingbird. That's it. That's the whole formula. You don't need a dedicated pollinator garden space. You just needed pollinator plants already in your garden. It needs to be woven into your garden. That's it. Let me give you a real example. So in my my garden, each of my beds have at least 1 or 2 basil, couple of zinnia plants. I love including multiple different colors of zinnias for butterflies. Milkweed, I have them beside my vegetable garden because they do spread very fast, but I want to support monarch population, and I will definitely plant milkweed every single year. Sometimes I don't even have to plant. It's a native, so they come back year after year. And then pentas for hummingbirds. I'm also trying out shrimp plant for hummingbirds. They seem to love it. That's your starter pollinator garden. done. Okay, before we wrap up, let me give you 4 quick rules that will make your life much more easier, but the pollinator plants work even more harder for you. Plant them in clusters, not singles. When insects come to your garden, they are looking for big clusters of colors. So one zinnia is probably not enough, one zinnia bloom. So if you plant them in clusters, they will have multiple blooms that will work their magic to attract pollinators in your garden. They are basically acting as a landing strip in your for your garden. One other thing I want to tell you is mix different heights. That creates an amazing interest focus point in your garden. Have a little bit different pollinators in different heights, pollinator plants in different heights, herbs different heights. That will create a stunning focal point and layers that different pollinators might prefer. It also looks stunning to your human eye. Another thing is keep the blooms going. Basically, succession plant. Don't just plant one plant one time and think that will carry you over the rest of the year. Plant more plants after the first planting is done. Stagger it so that something is always flowering. Place them near your vegetable so your food crops will get much more pollination when bee attracting plants are right nearby. So basically, more variety, more flowers, more throughout your time equals more pollinators. Always. Okay. I know I literally threw a lot of information at you. If you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, remember this. You need herbs and flowering plants for bees, nectar flowers and host plants for butterflies, and tubular bright flowers for hummingbirds. That is it. You can write it down. You can take a screenshot of the show notes, and you can even stick it on your fridge. That is your framework. Before you go, I have one small ask. And it actually has nothing to do with algorithms or downloads. If this episode made you think of one person, a friend, a neighbor, a fellow parent, or someone who's always said, I want to grow a garden, I want to grow my own vegetables and fruits, I just don't know where to start, would you share this episode with them? This podcast grows almost entirely through word of mouth, and every share helps someone realize that gardening doesn't have to be complicated or overwhelming. It can be gentle, it can fit real life, it can start right where they are. And if you're listening and wondering what kind of gardener you are, or what your next best step actually is, I created a free quiz to help with that. It's called the Growzona Quiz. And it helps you figure out your gardening style, your biggest challenges, and what will actually work for your season of life. Whether you're a total beginner or just need clarity. You can take it at vibrantrainbowgardens.com/quiz. And I will send you personalized guidance right after. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for helping this little garden of a podcast grow. I'll see you in the next episode.